Hello, everyone, and welcome to Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together. Tonight is going to be a very great episode. What we're talking about is co-parenting with toxic X, also known as an high conflict X. But before we get into it, I'm going to play this audio.
This for the queens, sisters manifesting their dreams. Get your cream by any means and beam with self-esteem. Beauty supreme and Buddha walk so mean. The way you fit in them jeans, you eat your cornbread and greens. Dance or a doctor, red wine or vodka. Redesign your spot and redefine your mantra. Retwist your locks and realign your chakras. Doing your squats and getting closer to God, huh? Brunching with your squad or taking a girl's trip. Adjust your crown, you God's gift to the world, sis. Celestial body, drink your water. Meditate, sun kiss goddess, heavenly order. Levitate, tribe of Ashanti, black girl magic, melanin popping, whether you ratchet or lavish, whether you bougie or savage, you a gift and a treasure. You got to love a black girl getting a shift together. Black girls are getting a shift together. These black girls getting a shift together, man. These black girls are getting a shift together. These black girls getting a shift together, dog.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together. This is a podcast about mental health and wellness and really about getting our shift together. Okay, that was a shift with an F in it. All right, tonight, once again, we are talking about co-parenting with a high conflict X. When I say this topic was extremely triggering, but in a good way, because it made me think and it promoted healing, I had to reach out to this beautiful sister. She definitely is a show favorite. I'm going to bring the beautiful Sarah out of the waiting room.
Hi.
Hello, my beautiful person in Australia.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for having me again as well.
Yes, this is our third stream.
Second or third, I lose track.
This will be our, yeah, I know we definitely did two. So we're going to say today is our third stream. How about that?
Let's go with that.
Yeah, how are you today?
I'm really well, thank you. Yeah, busy, but you know, it's I like being busy. I like having my fingers in every pie kind of thing. So lots of projects.
Can your audio sounds a little far away again?
Is that better?
Yeah, I think it is. Say Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together as an audio test.
Black girls getting their shift together. Shift.
We got to get our shit together too now. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it sounds a little far. I don't know if you put it up a little higher. But if not, we'll make it work.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, maybe it's just the volume. Okay.
Perhaps. So let's get right into it. So, first of all, can you tell everybody where you are streaming in from?
Yes, I'm in Melbourne, Australia, and it's like just 6 minutes past 10 in the morning on Thursday. So like a day ahead of you guys, because it's Wednesday night there.
Yeah, so you're a day ahead of us.
Yeah, or like 17 hours, something like that. Yeah.
Wow. Have you ever been to the US?
I have. Yeah, my dad lives in Seattle, so
really?
I visit often. Yeah. I haven't been for a few years. I was there in 2019, just before, all hell broke loose, but yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I wish I lived over there. I remember on the other side of the country, but wow.
I have plans. I have future plans to visit and visit people who I've worked with before and get together. That's a whole other later on thing, but yes.
Put me on that list.
Definitely.
So let's get into it. So how I came across this topic. So I'm going to drop Sarah's Instagram, but I follow Sarah on Instagram, and her platform is about narc proof and thriving, and she dropped a link about co-parenting with the toxic ex. So she said, if you want the link, just DM me. So yeah, I don't have a toxic ex. Well, actually I do, but not a current one. But I'm all about learning, and why not? And when I listened to that video, my jaw dropped open. It literally affected me in a good way, but I was triggered because I grew up in that household of the toxicity and extremely high conflict. So I said, Sarah, please come on.
Yeah, it's such a big topic that I think, I mean, there are adult children of these people, and then there are, younger children who can grow up to be these adult children who need those tools. And that's, as the safe parent, you need the tools, and you need to support your children because they're going to have to deal with that parent for however many years.
So what made you want to focus in on the narc proof? And don't go into too much detail because I asked you just before. So everybody, you're going to have to go back to the prior episodes that Sarah and I have done. But we'll just give you a little snippet of why this is her platform of narc proof and thriving.
Yeah, so narc proof and thriving, I mean, it's all in the name. You are getting to a place after experiencing narc abuse, emotional abuse, psychological abuse, financial, emotional, whatever you want to call it, all kinds of hidden abuse, not necessarily can include physical, but it's all kinds of non-physical abuse. Getting from the realization, reconciling what you experience, and then moving through that. Obviously, when you share children with somebody who is high conflict, toxic, narcissistic, abusive, just plain difficult, there are additional challenges, not just your own healing. You need to be a parent, and you need to try and, quote unquote, co-parent with somebody of this nature. And it isn't easy. It's got a unique set of challenges, a lot of repercussions, and a lot of things you need to do. But there's also a lot of things you need to stop doing as well to kind of get through it alive. And because I've worked on that myself, and I work with my clients to get to that place, that's what I help women do. Predominantly women, some men, but predominantly women, because it's not just as easy as reading a few books, scrolling Instagram, watching some YouTube videos. You actually have to apply what you learn. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get out alive for 18 years, 15 years, however long it is. So there are certain things you got to do, certain things you got to not do or stop doing as well.
Ooh. So let's talk about some of the things that we can do. But before we do that, can you explain what you would consider as a high conflict ex or a high toxic ex? Because I feel that sometimes that, because I've been that person, that I would make excuses for their behavior. So then if I make excuses, it would not be considered toxicity. It would not be considered high conflict. But in reality, from the outside looking in, it is all of that.
Yes.
Can you put your microphone up a little closer?
Is that better? Is that better? Yeah, kind of.
We'll wait.
I'll try and project my voice. I'm quietly spoken as well. But basically, I think I'll start with what is co-parenting. So co-parenting, traditional co-parenting, is where you have two emotionally healthy adults who are both have the same goal for looking out for the children's best interest. So they work together and make decisions together that align for the mental health, the physical health of the children. Okay, so if you have an emotionally healthy co-parent, you wouldn't even find my page. Nobody would find my page because I don't know anything about co-parenting with somebody who is emotionally healthy. That's kind of la la land. Right. I know it does exist. I have heard of that. It does exist. But when you're dealing with somebody who is high conflict, narcissistic, abusive, toxic, or just difficult, there are challenges that you're faced with when you share children. So they're not on the same page. They counter everything that you request. They're very difficult to negotiate with. there is no set or stable parenting plan in place, or they will resist coming to some kind of an agreement. They will throw you under the bus when it comes to third parties like your children's teachers or their health professionals. They will blame you for everything that is wrong. They will make you responsible for what they are responsible for, and they will guilt and shame you. It's basically, if it was abusive, toxic, narcissistic within the marriage or relationship, that continues. You're just no longer living in the same home. So it's the post-separation abuse that continues just takes a different form.
Wow. That, yeah, it is the same thing. You're right. You just physically probably are not in the same home the 24 hours in the day, but the abuse is incessant.
Yes, still there. And that can keep you stuck, or you can feel stuck because it's like, well, I've left this person. Shouldn't things be better now? Yes, the children still have to go there. And yes, we still share children, but things should be better. Things should work themselves out. I'm no longer in this sphere with them. But no, that's not the case. And a big mistake a lot of women make is assuming that over time, this is just going to work out. They'll just get bored. They'll just be better. They'll do their work, whatever it may be. But
they'll meet someone new.
Yeah, even if they meet someone new, they are not going to give up on trying to basically make your life difficult. So that's why you need to protect yourself so that you can protect your children. And kind of, I talk about a narc-proof home, which is your dome. You and your children are in here. What this person is saying and doing, the stones that they're trying to throw, they don't penetrate you because you have the tools in your armory. You have your firm and consistent boundaries in place. You limit the abuse through having this safe distance buffer so that whatever they try, they're going to keep trying. You know, they're not going to crawl under a rock just because you set a boundary, but you get stronger from your core when you do the work and apply what you learn from what I teach. Otherwise, you're just spinning your wheels, and you might think, you know, everything's okay because you get a period of quiet. They always come back because they always find something to complain or whinge about or abuse you about or be really sneaky, especially if you go through the family law system as well.
So when I hear you talking, I hear a lot of smear campaigns. It seems like if that parent, the high conflict parent, if they cannot get to you, that they will get to you via other people through the smear campaign.
Yes, through the smear campaign, but it didn't start when you left. It started months or years before the breakdown of the relationship, maybe throughout the whole relationship. And it's just reinforced, or they'll use it to reinforce their narrative when when you're divorced or when you leave or whatever like that. To say that she's this, she's that. I'm just saying she because usually, I work with women. They say that she's this, she's that. Look what she did to the family, and then you feel guilt and shame because culturally and society says, got to make things work, got to get on the same page. That's like the biggest challenge is you assume you can co-parent. That's why whenever I say co-parent, I'm always like in speech marks because it's not possible with somebody of that nature. It's more like parallel parenting, not co-parenting.
I've heard you say that the parallel parenting. That is, I like that term.
Yeah,
because
you parent in parallel. They do their parenting, whatever you want to call it, over at their home. You cannot control what happens there, but you have full control and responsibility for what happens within your home. So you cannot control what happens there. That's why I always say when with the people I work with, you have to parent 1,000 times harder because you have to undo what happens over there and redo. There's always undoing and redoing, and obviously supporting your children through the transitions, because whatever's happening over there is undoing all of your work, or they're being thrown gifts and toys, the other parents being the Disneyland parent. Then you've got to deal with the fallout, or
Wow.
the children have to be little robots over there. They're not allowed autonomy, so when they come home they blow up or internalize, and you have to deal with that. You need the tools to manage that. You can't deal with that unless you have dealt with that for yourself. and you can regulate yourself, and you have your tools in place to then teach your children, because our parents are our first teachers. Your mom and your dad are your first teachers, whether you want that to be the case or not. They are listening and watching, and they know a lot more than what we give them credit for. So that's why it's so important for the safe and emotionally healthy parent who's listening to this to do the work. Do it now so your kids don't suffer later on and have to be in years and years of therapy. Okay?
Right. Can you it's starting to fade again, the audio. I like how
Shall I
you had
hold it? Yeah, I'll hold it.
Oh, you will? Okay. So while you do that, hey Kendra, we have a caller. She said, for this very reason, I made a decision that we would only co-parent in my home. I wonder how that looks.
Yeah, how does that work? So this person is in your space?
Higher what?
So the other co-parent is coming to your home to visit, I wonder?
Yeah, Kendra, can you? Oh, she said this is so on point for her life. Kendra, isn't Sarah wonderful? But Kendra, can you divulge a little more on what you mean about the co-parenting in your home? So while we wait on her,
I think she said yes.
Yes.
He visits in my home. See, if that works for you, that is fine. For me personally, that vibe, that energy, I don't want it infiltrating my space. But I see that maybe that gives you more control if it is within your home, but you probably need to sage that place or do whatever you need to do after every visit, because I personally couldn't deal with that. But if that works for you, it looks different for everyone. If that works for you, that's absolutely fine. But that also gives them some element of a look in to see what you're doing. And I assume that you're supervising that. So it takes up your time and energy as well.
She said that
you leave. Okay.
Yeah. Visitation days in my home. I usually leave when he is here.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
If that works, that's fine. Whatever works and gives you peace and gives you that bit of freedom. So creating that narc-proof home, if you're not there with that person, that's fine. For the children, that's probably more stability. I can see that as an upside, but yeah, I just hope they're not snooping around looking in your stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. That's what I was thinking as well. But you're right. If it works for her, because it does look different for everyone, which is, it's not linear.
No, and also, although their behaviors are very similar, these high conflict individuals, they are individual people with different sides of their personality. Yes, the underlying behavior is abusive, toxic, narcissistic, whatever it may be, but they are also different people. So maybe this person isn't so aggressive with their smear campaign, isn't so antagonistic, is more passive. I'm not sure. Yeah. Your room's locked. Yeah, good.
Right. So what are some of the high risk of the negative co-parenting on the kids? I loved in the video how you talked about the scapegoat and the golden child. And when you were on that video, I literally saw my life.
Yeah.
And I'm at my age right now and it affected me. Okay, Kendra said, very smart. She locks her room.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, and with all of this, do whatever works. We have to do whatever works, whatever gives us peace, whatever gives us that peace of mind, and also focused on what's going to energize us and also protect the children.
Right.
But yeah, in terms of, a lot of people said that the adult children of, having a narcissistic parent, high conflict, abusive, toxic, whatever you want to call them, they do identify usually as the scapegoat child, because the parent who is high conflict, they have a parenting style. I call it style in air quotes. It's the negative influence that they have over their children, because you either come out to be the scapegoat child if you do not comply, because this other parent wants you to take on their worldview. They want to kind of mold you as a person. You are their possession or their puppet. You're there to entertain them. You're there to make them look good. to the outside world, especially if they're covert.
Do you think they want to mold their child after them, or mold them into something that they wish that they could have been?
I think after them, because I don't think they have the inner capacity to reflect in that way. So it's just because it's my way or the highway, and there's no questions asked. So if you resist, you become the scapegoat child. If you want to be your own person, if you keep pushing back, if you don't comply, if you don't seek approval or struggle to find that you're doing the right thing in terms of what they request, you will become the scapegoat child. And then the one who complies, the one who gets this like parent's approval, who makes this parent look good, is then into the golden child role, unfortunately. So, you may think, or, people may think that the golden child is the better of the two evils, but they actually both come with their own sets of negative impacts and negative outcomes.
With the golden child?
Well, they're going to turn out with narc fleas.
Oh.
Unless they comply because they are scared. If they're complying because they're scared and they just do it in those moments, but they don't actually take on those traits of that other parent, then when they're at an age when they can talk for themselves or speak for themselves or limit contact, then they can become more emotionally healthy. But if they fully go under their wing and become like a mini-me, it's,
Wow. Oh,
that's what tends to happen.
I agree. I've had that situations at work. And you see that, even the toxic cycle that goes on, because I had parts of me that was a scapegoat growing up because I did not comply to my father's demands. And then I saw how it rolled over as an adult into my work situations where I too had become a scapegoat, but I didn't know that. Yeah. I didn't know the term at all until I got in the
always, maybe not liking being told what to do, but not acting out, maybe becoming a people pleaser as well, not really knowing who you are as a person. Maybe getting into toxic and unhealthy relationships yourself and continuing the cycle. That's what happens or can happen with the scapegoat child.
That's exactly. Oh, I feel so seen.
Yeah, it's
yes.
All these people are different, but the outcomes are always the same.
Oh my God. So let's talk about parental alienation, what it is, and then we can get into what the solution could be for it. That stuck out to me as well.
Well, it's the high conflict parent will try and alienate you from the children. So we'll try and drive a wedge between you and your children to try and, skew their perception of who you are, tell them lies, divide you and your children so that they come home asking questions or accusing you of things. That's where the high conflict co-parent uses alienation to try and drive a wedge and break the bond that you have with your children. Okay, a lot of, I'm just going to talk in general terms, a lot of men and sometimes abusers use that as an excuse against the healthy parent that you're trying to stop me from seeing my children, because it's like a common term that people recognize. They'll default to that and say you're trying to alienate when you're actually trying to protect your children and protect yourself. But they'll use that as a defense when in fact they're projecting. They're the ones who are trying to do that. They're the ones trying to destroy the connection and destroy the bond by telling the children lies or telling the children outright that they hate you. That's happened as well. That happens. Or that your mum lies. This, that, and the other. Or that she did this, she did that. And of course, the children are internalizing this. If you have a close relationship with them, they'll come and ask you. If you don't, or they don't feel comfortable, they're going to keep that in their mind. And unless you say something, they're just going to believe that or be confused.
Wow. Do you find with some of your clients who have older children that the children figure it out in their own childlike terms and their mentality that, you know what, dad or mom, they were lying, or I don't believe it, or do they come around, or do they stay stuck in that mold to please?
Yeah, it depends on a lot of things. It depends on how old they are. It depends on how long since the relationship's been over and you've been in separate homes. And it depends on, how well they can articulate their feelings and emotions. If they're like 15, 16 and you left 2 years ago, they've been in the home with two people. You may not have realized who and what you were dealing with to be able to put these tools and strategies in place to mitigate the negative parenting. You've been protecting them as much as you can, known something that wasn't right. But if it's taken that many years and you're fresh out, I mean, I say 2 years is kind of like still fresh out, you're still finding your feet, then they've had a lot of exposure to this other parent. If they're 15, 16, but you left when the kids were like 3 or 4, and you have the awareness, and for all those years you've been protecting them, doing your work, giving them the tools necessary to deal with a parent of this nature so that they're able to set their own boundaries, they're able to think critically for themselves, then they are better equipped. So it's not like all is lost. It's not like all is lost because you left 2 years ago and the kids are 15 and 16. It's just that it's the best time to start is now with what you know. But with your own work, it's understanding and appreciating that children have their own version of healing to do as well. And it's going to look slightly different to yours, but they still need to be supported, and as you're doing your own. So it's a lot going on.
Absolutely. Kendra, if you're still on, can you put a 1 in the comment section if you can hear Sarah fine? I can. It sounds a little distant, but I can't hear you. I just want to make sure that other people can hear as well. So speaking of Kendra, Kendra said that she left her relationship 5 years ago and her kids are now 11 and 15. And yes, she can hear you very clear.
Okay, good. I'm glad.
So speaking of Kendra, let's go back to what she said about how she keeps her room locked. To me, that's a physical boundary, literally a physical boundary. So let's talk about boundaries within the relationship and how that looks with the child, or excuse me, with the high conflict ex.
Okay, so I mean, we all know what boundaries are. We hear about it everywhere. You read about it, you see videos talking about how to set boundaries, how important they are. I would say 9 times out of 10, the women that I work with, they have the awareness of what boundaries are. They think that they are setting boundaries, but then when I ask a certain question, it's like, oh, but then this happens. So to me, that tells me that you have the awareness, but you're not applying what you, I guess, should be doing in order to enforce that boundary, not just once, every single time, because this other parent wants to push your boundaries. They don't respect your boundaries. They don't respect you. So to me, when you are successful with setting boundaries, is you set them. I mean, I call it cast iron boundaries. That's one of my modules within my course. Cast iron boundaries. Cast iron means they cannot be penetrated. They may be disrespected, but that's fine. You still hold your boundaries every single time. A lot of women fall into the trap of, oh, he's been good lately. He's been really forthcoming, really communicative. Drop their guard, zero boundaries, and they get pummeled. And then the cycle starts again, and they're left confused. My boundaries don't work. No, it's not that they didn't work. It's that you didn't enforce them and you didn't keep them. They weren't cast iron.
Right.
And that's why it's so important.
Right. It seems that that the boundaries are very porous, and they're not, like you said, the cast iron. And I like that term, and I'm going to start using that. The cast iron. I know for me, what has helped me with one parent, I have had cast iron boundaries because the cycle of narcissistic abuse, the emotional, verbal abuse, it was consistent but then I was inconsistent because I would let my guard down. And
Yeah.
well, and you know what would keep me on would be the hope.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
this time it will be better. He's acting
Yeah.
right. And then that spilled over into my adult romantic
Yes.
relationships.
Having allowances, and then the bar gets lower and lower and lower. And this is a trap that, a lot of us fall into until you learn what you need to set those boundaries, regardless of. That's what I said in one of my reels, actually. Whether they're good, whether they're bad, you are just like that. You don't change. Your behavior is independent of whether they're being good or bad. You need to set the boundary regardless and enforce it and keep it. Now, it's hard for people because, and hard for women, we want to be nice, we want to be kind, we want to reward good behavior. That's what somebody said in the reels, in the reel comment. I thought I was rewarding good behavior. No, you're being manipulated, and they know what you're going to do. Your guard's going to go down, and they're going to, excuse my French, fuck you over. Excuse my French, but
yes,
there's no nice way to say it.
There isn't.
And then you end up like low, pummeled, picking yourself up. Oh, my boundaries don't work. Every time I set a boundary, this and this and this happens. Yeah, because they know, it's like dog training. They know if I do this, you're going to do this. And you're like rewarding that behavior. You're playing their game. Don't play the game, play your own game.
Right. And you know what? I love what you said in the video. Ooh, this really made my hair stand up when you talked about having the difference between blame and what was it?
And responsibility.
And responsibility. Yeah. So we could blame that high conflict X for the manipulation and the verbal emotional abuse, but they still will have that control because we give it to them, so we can blame them for the abuse that happened, but it's our responsibility to heal ourselves
and do something about it, because they are to blame, but don't stay in the blame. If you stay in the blame, nothing's going to happen. You're just going to stay stuck. You have to do something about it, and you have the responsibility. You have the control to do something. It just takes doing something different. I think a lot of people assume that, there's nothing I can do. They do this to me, and that's it. That's my life. No, that is not how it is. You have the control, but you have to then step into, I'm going to be responsible for fixing this on my side, not that person. They can do what they like.
That's key, on my side. Yeah, I love that you said that, because it still will ultimately give them that control and power. And that's that fuel that they feed off of. May I read a comment? Kendra said, my ex has no respect for her boundaries. That's what makes our relationship so hard. Even enforcing them does not work. And the only thing that works for me is to not have the expectation.
Yeah, not have expectations. I mean, if we have expectations that these people are going to do what is required or be on board or be on the same page, you're going to set yourself up for disappointment. So you need to see yourself as an island. You're over here, they're over there. They do their own thing, you do your own thing. I mean, if you do my boundaries course, Cast Iron Boundaries, that is when the boundaries work. But a great indication that your boundary is working is when you get a negative reaction. But it's that negative reaction that prevents people from continually and consistently setting the boundary and reinforcing it.
Can you explain the negative reaction? What was it you said? The negative?
Yeah. So if you set a boundary with, say, this person, and they react negatively to it, like if you set a boundary with someone who is reasonable, they will accept that. They will fully accept that because they respect you. This person doesn't respect you, so they are not going to accept the boundary. So they're going to make your life difficult. That prevents a lot of people from continually setting consistently and diligently the boundary and reinforcing it because of this negative reaction. Or you may get told, you're this for doing that, you're that for doing that. So there's a lot of guilt and shame around setting boundaries, and this person is accusing you of this, that, and the other, and you back down. Thinking that that's the answer. It's not the answer.
So they back down, lowering their guard, which lets the manipulation enter.
Yeah, and it continues, and then you're just in this cycle, and usually, you know, you'll know whether it's a few weeks cycle or a few months. You might get a bit of peace for a few months, then you know something's gearing up and something will happen. You get used to the patterns. But as you do this work and you have the tools in your tool belt, then you can apply what you learn and prepare for this so that it doesn't pummel you. You don't go back down to zero. You don't have the anxiety.
Yeah.
You bring your anxiety way down so that you have the capacity. You know, the not-proof home, they're on the outside. This safe distance buffer gets wider and wider. And as much as they try, they just can't reach you. They can't penetrate you because they're doing this. Pull that out. I'm going to do that. They do this one. Pull that out. I'm going to do that. So you shut the doors and the opportunities they have to do what they want to do, manipulate, gaslight, abuse, whatever it may be. You shut off their opportunities. They're not going to crawl under a rock and not come back. They'll just try something else in a few weeks or months. But at least you, as you apply these things, you gain more confidence within yourself that this works and that this is how I'm going to get my peace and my joy back and protect myself and my children.
Wow. If anything that Sarah is saying resonates, please put a light bulb emoji or a number 1 in the chat. Let me know, because matter of fact, put number 1 in the chat for me while I'm speaking to it. In that video that you had, I love what you said. It's about, unfortunately, playing the the chess game, because you always will anticipate what their next move is. And I think going back to, thank you, Ashley. I think going back to what Kendra said about enforcing or not having any expectations. I'm thinking have the expectation that
they're going to do something to opposite of what you want. Yeah, expect that.
They're going to fuck you over.
Yeah, basically.
It's going to happen. I mean, it's just when.
It's a shift. Like, you want to give a benefit of the doubt, but don't. And for my piece, and this is what I teach my clients, is use the past to tell you how the future's going to go. So basically that means until you prove for the number of years that you have been this abusive person, and until you prove that the exact number of years that you're not, I will assume that you are.
Ooh.
That's the only way to protect yourself and protect your energy. So until you've, proved for X amount of years that you are not the person who you've proved yourself to be, I will assume that you are who I know you to be, no matter what you say or do. I trust myself. I trust my experience. So I will treat you in that way that protects me and my energy and my children.
Sounds like ironclad boundaries.
Cast iron. And I love boundaries.
Iron.
I could talk about this for hours and days, but even me, I still have to check myself, not necessarily with the high conflict co-parent, but just boundaries in general, because they help with other relationships as well and interactions. You just have to check in with yourself. Someone is going to not like the boundary that you set and the outcome of it. It better not be you. That's basically how it needs to be. I'm not going to hurt myself and continue to hurt myself for someone else's pleasure. Ooh. That's what keeps you going. Whatever works for you, but that's for me. I'm not going to keep cutting myself to please others. So my decision is very clear. I need to do that. I need to set that boundary. And boundaries aren't always verbal. They're not always physical. It's just what maybe you decide not to do or to stop doing as well.
Right. Kendra said, I had to realize that expecting to do just the opposite of what he agreed to do.
Yeah. Then you have no expectation.
Exactly. That's who he is. So let's talk about communication. Before I go on, because we're having more people jumping in, I definitely would love to continue this conversation with the listeners. So if you're listening now, please make sure and join the private Facebook group so that we can take this conversation beyond the podcast. It is a safe space. It's private. It's a private group. So the conversation will be just amongst us. So whether you do it now or after, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like, share, Thank you for commenting. I appreciate all of it. And Sarah appreciates it all the way from Melbourne, Australia. But make
Yes.
sure and join. Yeah, make sure and join the private Facebook group. So let's get into the communication versus abusive interactions. And I love that ratio that you talked about. That green
Yeah.
and red box. That was something
Yeah.
else.
So, yes, communication is probably my favorite topic because that's where a lot of the anxiety stems from. When you receive something from them, you see their name on, pop up on your phone. You can have the tightness in your chest and the butterflies, and they're like, oh, what is it now? Because you know it's not going to be nice, and it's not going to be good, and it's not going to be positive. It's going to ruin your day, and you know that you're going to have some kind of argument on your hands. So a lot of women stop looking at their messages or limit the time that they spend in their emails because of this. But this person is still controlling you if that happens. So you need to get to a place where you realize not every communication, I'm just talking about like email communication, requires a response. Not every face-to-face communication requires you to engage. Okay, face-to-face is a bit harder. I teach my clients to have a few outs ready to get out of sticky situations when they're trying to antagonize you or drag you into some kind of drama or even just talk to you. You don't necessarily have to talk to that person. You're not obligated to. You drop your kid off, you pick them up.
What do you say to people? Oh, so I'm just gonna say mothers to the kids because that's just easy right now.
Yes.
What would you say to moms who say, well, he's the father of my children. No matter what we go through, he's still the father to my children.
Yeah, that's a fact. But what meaning are you attaching to that? Are you saying he's still the father, so he should abuse you? Are you saying he's still the father, so he gets the right to treat his children like crap? Are you saying he's still the father? So, I mean, what is the meaning that you're attaching to that? Biologically, yes, he is the father. But as far as I'm concerned, something that's really going to serve women who think in that way is like, you don't want to stop your children from having a relationship with that person. And I don't think you should. I mean, it depends on the situation. Within the confines of the law, the children should be allowed to have a relationship with both parents, as they say. That parent does not have the right to have a relationship with that child. If the child has the responsibility and the right to have a relationship with the parent, it doesn't go both ways. Although these high conflict parents think it's their right and they feel entitled to having a relationship with their children. But it's not that. It's the children have a right to both parents. So that's a slight difference there. When you can see your high conflict co-parent who is abusive, toxic, whatever to you, that doesn't make them a good parent. Even if they're providing for their children, take them here, there, and everywhere, throw money at them, give them everything they want. Yes, on the outside, yes, superficially, that's usually what coverts do. But they are not looking after their emotional stability. They are not cultivating any kind of emotional intelligence within their children. It's for appearances only. So anyone who is abusing you and continually abusing you, even if they're great to the kids, that is not a good parent, in my opinion.
I totally agree. Let me tell you, I just had this conversation. A few days ago with someone. I'm not going to mention the show, but there's this reality show. And the father on the show, he is a total Instagram father, in my opinion. And he has 5 kids. And the person I was talking to, and he's cheated on the wife. And the reason why he has 5 kids, because his last child he had while he was married to his wife. I don't know if you know the show I'm talking about.
No.
Yeah.
Probably not, but I've heard that story, lots of
exactly. I'm sure it's nothing new. And so when I was talking to this person, they said, but he's a good dad to his kids. He's just not a good husband. And I was like, he's a piece of shit, because the kids see that. The kids can see how the interaction between the parents, and what you said about it looks good on the outside and it looks good for the gram, but meanwhile, he's still obliterating the children's emotional well-being.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said before, we are their first teachers. So you are teaching your children. I mean, it's kind of staying in a place of denial. That's like really being in denial and not
Ooh.
accepting what is. I mean, I never sugarcoat things. I'm always loving with my delivery, but I'm not going to sugarcoat things. That's living in denial and not seeing things for what they are. And your children are learning how to be as a woman, as a wife, and how to be as a man and a husband. They are learning that dynamic. And that's how you perpetuate generational trauma. And your kids are just going to go off and have exactly the same relationship as you. So is it going to end with you or not? That's really what you need to think about. Because what are you judging this person being a good father on? How many pictures they put up?
Exactly.
The newest trainers that they give the kids, the newest whatever. I mean, anyone can be a parent with a credit card to go and throw the kids whatever they want. That is not parenting.
I love that. It is not parenting. It looks good.
It looks good, but it's superficial.
Extremely superficial.
Kids aren't going to remember that when they're 18 and looking back like, oh, I got bought all these things. They're going to be remembering how they weren't allowed to be who they were, how they don't know who they are and they have no identity, how they keep having crappy relationships, how they keep getting hurt, how people keep walking all over them. That's what they're going to remember. And that's what they're going to carry on into their future.
Exactly.
Unless there is an emotionally healthy and safe and stable parent in the mix. Now, from that dynamic that you're talking about, she's in denial. She's perpetuating the cycle. See what happens when the kids are in therapy.
Damn.
Not that that's a bad thing. Not that that's,
it's a great thing, but I love your delivery. Like, that's keeping it real. For real.
That's the fact.
Keeping
and
it
that's
very
only because
real.
I've worked with so many women who have older children who didn't realize what they were going through because it was a different generation as well. And then you don't know. Oh, yeah, exactly. And now you're picking up the pieces, years of therapy and working it all out. Thank God for, social media and the internet. But people who didn't know this before, and especially if you're, maybe in your 60s and you were a wife of somebody like that, it's a different generation. You stay together until the kids are gone, and then you realize, oh, shit. It's never too late. But if you have the awareness now, and now, today is the time to start to do something about it and take responsibility for what you are in control of.
I have a few more questions, but you let me know how much more time do we have? Because I know you have little ones.
Yeah, another like 10 minutes. 10 minutes is good.
Perfect. Speaking of the children, how do we create, because here at Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together, we talk about issues, but we also love to talk about solutions. So how would a parent create a safe container for the children, a safe narc-proof container, or a high conflict free container home? I don't know the best way to. You're the expert on this. How do you contain?
No, that's I'm all about solutions. I mean, yes, there are problems, but I'm all about solutions and basically cutting through the fluff and getting to, okay, action mode. What do I need to do to get here? So top line is you need to visualize, however it works for you, this protective dome. That is, you and your children are in there. The high conflict co-parent is on the outside. When you get to a place where whatever they say, whatever they do, it doesn't penetrate that bubble, you and your children you can be a parent, you can be the best possible parent for your children. When you have that parent on the outside, you've created this safe distance buffer, which means you have your boundaries in place. You only respond when necessary. When you do respond, you know how to respond so that there's no comeback. If you need to document behaviors, you document and file away in the easiest and quickest way possible. You plan, and it's like playing a game of chess. They want to play ping pong, throwing these balls at you, and you end up spinning your wheels if you stay playing their game. Play your own game, play the game of chess, put your pieces where they need to be. And I also teach my clients, when you've done that, this is what's going to happen next. So you prepare for that as well. So it's not just one step and then that's it. because I know what's going to come. I know they're going to say or do something, especially if you're in and out of court as well. So it's preparing yourself for that. But it's all about grounding from the inside out, getting the tools in your tool belt, and then applying them to your life. Regulating yourself and doing your work so that you can teach your children to do the same. Because, you know, in lieu of this person being hit by a bus, they're going to be around for a while. So you need to take control of what you can control.
Whoa. I love what you said about playing your own game. I feel if we play the game together, they still have a percentage of control as opposed to playing our own game.
Playing their game means you play by their rules, which means they control you and they control the outcome. Do you want them to control you in the outcome? Or you didn't stay, you know, you didn't leave to still be controlled. So find your motivation for switching up the game. They don't have to be an active participant. You are just operating in this way, independent of what they want to do or say.
You know, I don't know if you know this, that I'm a tennis player. And while you're talking, I envision this tennis game where I play with advanced players, and they are literally in one spot, and they are literally controlling the entire game. Whenever they hit it to the right, I'm running to the right, and literally I'm looking like the ping pong, and I can feel it because my lungs are exhausted. But they are controlling the entire game, and I see that when we give our power away as opposed to taking it back, how that high conflict X is the one that's controlling that tennis game, or the game of the controlling the kids or whoever, that they're at the forefront. And so, you know, it's always, you're playing the game, but then you're always on the defense as opposed to taking over.
Scrambling.
You control the game.
Yes. And
like
scrambling around, exhausted. You're exhausted. And then you get a little bit of a break, and then they go and do it again and again and again. So this is what makes people think that there is nothing I can do. They do this, this, and this, and there is nothing I can do. No matter what I do, they always fuck me over, or whatever it is.
Right.
But it's because you're playing their game. Take yourself out of the game. Play by your own rules. There's nothing they can do. They can't control your game. They can either agree or not, but we don't care if they agree or not. You are still on track to playing by your own rules. And you slow the game down, and you get strategic with how you communicate, with how you protect your energy, and with how you protect your children. So that they're on the outside, you've got the safe distance buffer from them, you've got this NARC-proof home, you're on your journey to being the best possible parent you can be, because you have more space and capacity, because you're keeping them at a distance, and your children are emotionally, or become more emotionally calm and stable, because you are providing them with the tools you should have had to not end up in this situation. You have that advantage to teach your children. Yes, it takes work, it takes determination, but the alternative is, what you're going to do, wait to see what happens and let them rule the game, and your children, you know, suffer in the process.
Wow, that's some good stuff.
Yeah, it's just not an option. It needs to not be an option to continue in the way that you are.
Absolutely. You want to have peace, you know, and we wonder why we're so damn tired and literally exhausted. That takes a lot of work, playing by someone else's game. Can you tell people how they can reach you? I dropped the link in the description where people can reach you on Instagram, but I'll let you tell people.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. That's kind of where I do most of my posting, most of my content and resources. So that's at NARC-proof and thriving. So you can put NARC-proof and thriving, or NARC_proof_and_thriving. Also, my website is just www.narcproofandthriving.com. I have a free checklist resource for dealing with third parties, because as we know, nobody knows what this is, the struggles that you're dealing with. So if you have like legal professionals or a therapist or your children's doctor or teacher, and your high conflict X is trying to sabotage those situations, then you need to know how to explain your situation without using the N word. And I always say the other N word, not that N word. because we don't throw around terms, but you need to get to a place where you're clear and concise, because then they're going to be able to help you. So that's also on my website. It's a free checklist. And also there's a comprehensive video training and PDF guide on what to say, what not to say, and also how to say it.
I love it
as well.
Yeah. I just dropped. Hey, Maquita. She said, dang, I finally stopped driving to send love and light. Oh, that's wonderful. So, Laquita, just letting you know, you're sending love and light all the way to Australia, because that's where my guest is streaming in from. So that love and light is definitely going global for sure.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, Sarah, I just dropped your link tree in the chat.
Yes,
so
thank you.
And as a side note, on a personal level, if you do not have a high conflict ex, but you grew up, or now realizing you grew up in a high conflict home, I advise you, it would help if you just listen to that video. It's only about 16 minutes long, but it gave me so many answers. Sarah, do you remember when I was in your DM?
Yes. Yeah, like it's those little nuggets and those little like connections. It's like, oh, that's why. And it's nice to have those answers, because then you can understand yourself better and move forward in your healing as well.
Yes, and it's unburdening all of that toxicity that we took on their personal, their toxic shame. And one thing that stood out to me when you talked about the cycle of abuse that comes, but the more that we have the cast iron boundaries around us, that high conflict ex or parent or person, they tend to stay away. And what you said, it made so much sense. You said you tend to know what your cycles are, or what your ex's cycles are. Is like every couple months or whatever you said. And I started thinking that makes so much sense, because the more I was being very firm, I have a brick wall. So with my mom, I have a gate.
Yeah.
My father, I have a brick wall, and it cannot be penetrated no matter what. And I vowed myself to that. And so each brick that I put, like these bricks, oh my God, like the bricks behind me.
Yes.
Like the bricks behind me on my wall, he starts leaving me alone. He doesn't come around as much. And now it's been a few years.
Yeah. You get some peace and like energy back, emotional energy to focus on life and living your life.
Right. We're not put on this earth to just be in constant conflict and anxiety. And I've now am experiencing peace, and I want to keep it like that. And if I'm not, I now have tools on what to do.
That's it.
Laquita said, yes, this link tree is on and popping. I signed up for SMS notifications from Australia.
Thank you. Yes, it's I have a lot of resources. I have a lot of information. I don't put all of it. Obviously, Instagram is like 0.01% of what I teach, because I can't put everything there. It's within my programs, because I also don't want narcs catching on. I don't want them knowing what my clients are learning, because then they can get savvy.
That's so smart. That's genius.
They do stalk. Sometimes I get women in my DM saying, oh, can I work with you, or this. I can't comment publicly because he also follows you. I always ask, what is their handle? And I block them. It doesn't stop them from creating new accounts if they want to, but I don't want them knowing anything.
That is genius.
Yeah. Gotta protect the people. I protect my energy. I don't want anyone coming in, even on my page digitally. I don't want anyone coming. And anyone who is that way inclined gets blocked anyway. They start saying shit.
You are for the people, sis.
Yes. Gotta protect people. Gotta protect the energy. Gotta protect the space.
You are amazing. I love it. Any parting words, Sarah, so you can get to your babies?
Parting words is, if you are even listening to this, you have a less than healthy co-parenting relationship. So if it's difficult, high conflict, toxic, abusive, whatever it may be, there are tools, there are strategies. You don't have to struggle. I had one client who thought, this is it. She'd been doing it for 7 years and thought, this is it. We worked together one-on-one. She brought her anxiety from a 9 to a 2.
Ooh.
In terms of dealing with this high conflict co-parent. So if that can happen in 3 months for one person, anything can happen and anything's possible. And plus, I just want to add, I never teach anything that I don't use myself, and I don't teach my clients. So I'm not a fluffy person. It's just real practical things you can implement and apply that work. That's
right.
it. So come find me
and
on Instagram.
Exactly. And if you want to know more of Sarah's story, I will put the link to our past streams that we've done, and you can hear more about Sarah's personal story. So she's not just making this up. She's lived this. And as Laquita says, be blocked and be blessed.
Yeah. Yeah, be blocked and be blessed, and good luck to you in your life. Bye.
Yeah, just go somewhere. But if anyone, if you love what you heard, if there was anything that resonated in your soul and made it vibrate, you love to support the channel, you can always buy me a coffee. I just dropped the link in the description box in the thread. And we want to keep my throat parched, as well as supporting the content of this amazing channel. So, Sarah, guess what?
Yes.
You are a Black girl in Australia that has her shift together, ma'am.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Took many years, but yeah, there is no going back.
Yes, I agree.
That's what everyone can get there as well. Just got to do the work, be intentional. But it's possible. Life is too short for conflict.
And we'll end on that. On that. I like that. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. This was amazing. Sarah always brings it, no matter what. Sarah, I'm going to slide up in your DMs within 30 minutes, and I'll let you know why after. I know you have to go. But I want everyone to tune in next week, because we're going to have a nice, lighthearted talk with Ashley Silva. She was one of the stars on Love and Marriage DC. So make sure and click the notification bell. Make sure and join the private Facebook group so we can continue this awesome, amazing conversation. And Laquita said, thank you, ladies. You're very welcome.
You're welcome.
Sarah, you have a great evening, my love.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. You too. Thank you for having me.
Take care, my love.
Bye.
For the queen, sisters manifesting their dreams. Get your cream by any means and beam with self-esteem. Beauty supreme and Buddha walk so mean. The way you fit in them jeans, you eat your cornbread and greens. Dance or a doctor, red wine or vodka. Redesign your spot and redefine your mantra. Retwist your locks and realign your chakras. Doing your squats and getting closer to God, huh? Brunching with your squad or taking a girl's trip. Adjust your crown, you God's gift to the world, sis. Celestial body, drink your water. Meditate, sun-kiss goddess, heavenly order. Levitate, tribe of Ashanti, black girl magic, melanin popping, whether you ratchet or lavish, whether you bougie or savage, you a gift and a treasure. You got to love a black girl getting a shift together. Black girls are getting a shift together. These black girls getting a shift together, man. These black girls are getting a shift together. These black girls getting a